Oh, hey, am I on? Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. Zazoo Plazz out here in the woods of Connecticut. By the river, no, by the pond, whatever this body of water. Fair warning, if you're standing, you better sit down. And if you're sitting, you better buckle in. It's going to be a wild ride. Woo! New moon in Aries. I'm feeling an Aries energy today. Oh, clearing the threshing floor or whatever. I'm driving the Zamboni on the ice. Oh, it got really cold all of a sudden. So, where shall I begin? I feel the need to let's all take a deep cleansing breath. Breathe in peace. Breathe out love. There's a plane flying overhead. I'm going to be on a plane in a couple of days. I'm going away for a week. Those of you who know me know where I'm going. I feel the need for some more Zazoo adventures to write about. I mean, I always have stuff to write about and talk about. But I'm going to have some more Zazoo stories, some real world Zazoo stories. Now that we're freely, moving about. And it'll be great. I think it's going to be a good week. I want to reflect on the fact today, because sometimes you're going along in life and every now and then you need to, like I said last week, you need to walk up on Salisbury Hill. You need to take a higher perspective. This week I realized for the longest time I've had my stuff, my computer and everything in the dining room. And sometimes you can get stuck in a rut just looking at through the same window. And sometimes you don't even realize it, right? That you need to open the windows, even though it's freezing cold. And the warmth of spring and summer hasn't really arrived yet. April Fools. Next week, sometimes you need to just open the windows. And when you open the windows, everything gets all stirred up, right? The wind comes through and all the dust gets blown around. And you can't quite tell where everything's going to land. But sometimes you have to do it anyway, just to get some fresh air in the house so you can breathe. And you need to get rid of any, let the old, spray your sage, do your sage, clean the house from top to bottom. And by house, I mean literally your house that you live in, and figuratively the house that is your many layered, splendid, divine being. Divine body, spirit in a physical body down here in the earth. So before we get all, mushy, I just want to say, it's just kind of a week to open up the windows and let everything blow around and stuff blows out the window or, things, then you come back and you look at your house and you say, well, that's broken. I'm going to give that away, and somebody else can use that more than I can, and this really doesn't look good on me. And so I've been doing this for the past few years. It's all part of Pluto passing through my lovely fourth house, and your fourth house is where you've been. So, and sometimes I like to read the Gospels and I think, man, Jesus was something, because he didn't hang out with the people who, were socially appropriate. He hung out with the people who needed him the most. The people who, weren't perfect. I mean, none of us, not one of us is perfect. But he went where the need was. I want to just leave that right there. And sometimes in your life you find that you've been, hanging out where you're not needed. And you need to go where you're needed. Not that you're going to go and find tax collectors in the trees or whatever. It is tax season. You know what I mean. If you read between the lines, you know what I mean. Where in your life have you been hanging out where you're not needed? And where can you go where you are needed? Where in the world could use a little you? Just saying. And thank you to everyone who's gotten back to me this week, that they're watching my videos, that they're reading my book. I love you. This is great. Keep sharing. Keep it out there. Keep spreading the word. Spreading the Zazoo stories, and there'll be more to come. Now what I want to say, I've got this song. How you're going along, I'm packing for my trip. And all of a sudden, take me to the river. And I'm like, what is that? Drop me in the water, or something like that. Like, Talking Heads, 1980? What? 1970, I don't know. I'll have to look it up. And I guess somebody else wrote the song. I'll put the details. But take me to the river. Drop me in. I've been on a Talking Heads. I've been listening to this app, and it's like when you like something, it gives you more of the same. So like for a few days I'll be getting all Tom Petty, and then I'll be getting all Cars, and then all Talking Heads and Peter Gabriel, and so yeah, Talking Heads, one of the best bands of the 80s, and I love their videos. They're so cool. They were so ahead of their time. Well, on time. But yeah, Talking Heads, there's just something about them that I love. The idea of the Talking Heads, because I've got a lot of communication stuff going on. And, constantly talking. I'm constantly thinking the Talking Heads. So, yeah, and it is a timely thing. Right? Aren't there a lot of Talking Heads around? Yeah. And, you see them and you're like, mama. It reminds me of mama. Yeah, a lot of unpleasant images come to mind when I think about heads. Just, heads in jars and, I don't know, Mars Attacks style kind of gruesome things with the lips moving and all that, but I try not to think about those things. I'll just write them down, and it might pop up in a new Zazoo book. Oh, it's so fun. So I don't want to scare you. 25 years ago today, and my husband will remember this because he was there. We closed on our house. 25 years ago, we moved into this house right over here. It was our closing. We moved in. I remember it like it was yesterday. And yet, 25 years, it goes like that. You can stumble upon different timelines, and you're like, for me anyway, I'm never on the same timeline 2 days in a row. So people who know me might be confused because I feel like I'm, one day I'm with this person and the next day I'm with that person. The truth is, everybody, we're all connected. unity. We have to help each other. I can't go off with one person and not be connected to another person. All of our lights are connected. This is important. And I find my loyalty questioned lately. You ever have somebody say, you have my back? Right, well, we have people in our soul families. We have each other's back. And we have divine assistance, more than we even know. And they've got our backs. And that's what we have to cultivate. Not, and I'm talking about myself here, not in a way that we depend on other people for our happiness or our money or we like people for what they can give us, or advance our careers or do this for us or that for us. And I'm as guilty as anybody, I'd say, if I get with this group, they're going to, teach me astrology, and maybe I can, and I can go with the finance group at college, and maybe I'll get a job through one of this. I used to, meet people and say, oh yeah, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I'll introduce you to blah, 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 I'll get a job. And then those jobs didn't work out, And a lot of times I have to question. That's when I go through my stories and I see patterns. And you can do this too. You can easily, and it's fun. It's addictive. You go, oh wait, then I went there and I went there, and how would that work out? Now that didn't work out so good. Okay, I'm gonna make a spreadsheet, and okay, this is, because I view life kind of like a science experiment. It's we're on this planet to learn. What are you here to learn? That's very fascinating, I think. I just want to spend my time learning, and I want to be loyal to myself. And to everybody who's saying, selfish. Oh, it's not it at all. To understand others, to know others is hard. And there's a quote on this, I know. But it is true. To really have the courage to know and love yourself is one of the hardest things you can ever do. And it is so worth it. And everybody should do it. Because miracles happen. When you dare to step within, you might not like what you see when you open all the windows. And it's like Dorothy with the tornado, right? She's at all the witches come out, and then take your little dog, and but then at the end, right? She always had her ruby slippers. She could have gone home at any time, but she didn't know. Nobody told her. She's got those ruby slippers on, right? This one's telling her, oh, keep your dog out of, do this, but I relate to Dorothy. I relate to Alice in Wonderland. I've been down the rabbit hole so many times, and then things start getting curiouser and curiouser. And you're like, there's a cat smiling at me from the tree now. It's loads of fun. But when you're around other people who think it's fun, it's even more fun, So you need to get yourself out of the bucket of crabs and get yourself in a group of birds, majestic birds like eagles, who want to fly and fly together. I love you, everyone. All right, the reading of today, the Prodigal Son. Oh man, one of my favorites. And it's got two sons in it, right? It's got two sons. It's got an older son and a younger son and a father. Now, who do you think the father is? The father is, the Father is God. The Father is divine source, ground, or zero, whoever you call it, her, it, source, right? This is my interpretation. You may not agree. That's okay. I think, after years of teaching this in CCD, saying, oh, and then, but sometimes I would get confused because it seems like the older son, right? He's the good son. He stays home. He with the father. He feeds the animals. He's up every morning at 5. He gets, he's the son who does everything right, dots all the I's, gets his engineering degree and goes off and, wears the suit and tie and he's wonderful, right? And he's there all the time and he is necessary and he is love, he is there. He's already there. He's already with the Father. He doesn't need help, right? He's already where he doesn't need any extra attention. He's on his own. This is starting to sound familiar. So, two sons, both, pretty much opposites, right? And tell me if any of you find this vaguely familiar. And then you have the younger son, right? So the older son, maybe he's a Virgo or he's a, he's of service, right? Or maybe he's a Pisces or, he's responsible. He's the older son, right? The oldest is always the responsible one who notices that you have, a goop on the back of your pants and you better go wash it off. The younger son, he's the one going, he spent all his money. He went off, he wanted to buy a Jeep, so he went and spent all his money and took some trips and, took his girlfriend up to wherever, and he's a cool kid. He's probably into rock music. He's probably got long hair, And then after a while, he runs out of money. He's like, oh man, this isn't cool. I need money. Somebody's out there with their doggy. So he's like, yeah, I think I'll go home, It beats, like working, delivering pizzas or whatever I have to do, slapping up, bussing tables and something. So he goes home. And he's like, oh, the dad sees him. He's like, oh, my son is home. My son is home, right? And it's a big deal because he was gone and the father missed him. And he loves both his sons, he loves them both. And the younger one just needed a little more time to grow up, Some of us need a little more time to grow up, and that's okay. We have farther to go. And we have, people in our lives who are, more mature. But, those of us, you need an Aries or two in your life. You need a child. Not that we have to be irresponsible and, blow people off. And it might seem to some people, I suppose, that maybe I'm not as responsible as I should be. But you know what? I think, yes, we have to live in society and we have to get along. But I think the biggest crime, the biggest regret that any of us would have is not believing in ourselves, not standing up for ourselves when we feel hurt, when we feel that we're not needed, when we give all of our love and it's not returned in the way that we thought or hoped, we need to believe that we are strong, that God's got our backs, like the father in the story. God loves all of us, not one more than the other. And when we come home, to ourselves, we're coming home to our Father, to our Source, to Mother Earth, to our guides, our loved ones, our those divine beings who are looking for us to come home, wherever that may be. So sometimes we need to go on a journey and to come home to ourselves. It's about time, right? So, take me to the river. I got, my husband gave me this. I did go on another retreat, a sabbatical type thing. What is it? 3 years ago now, and I wrote about it in Zazoo Plazz. In 2019, I went up to the Berkshires to see, hang out with a bunch of other adventurers, and we had a wonderful time hiking in the woods in the autumn. And so now I'm going on a spring one, hiking outdoors. Most of the time I'm going to be outdoors, and I love that. So little did I know, my husband gave this to me. It's A Fine Day to Wander. He gave me this little book, and I see now that it has places where you could color. And I have some little colored pencils, and this is the drawing. I sat on a bench in the Berkshires and I drew. I'm not anywhere near the artist that my youngest son. He's amazing. But I took a little try at sketching what I saw, and people were going by while I was sitting there and drawing, and it was fun. And so I turned the page here, and it says, "To live will be an awfully big adventure," and it has a hot air balloon lifting up over the trees. And what I wanted to close with was how ironic that is, because one of the favorite pictures my husband took of our house was a while ago. It was the spring, and our house always looks beautiful in the spring. The grass was beautifully green, and sometimes they would have hot air balloons, just take off from one of the towns next to us that has a lot of open space. And it was drifting over our house, and my husband happened to be out. I don't know. I don't think we had even the dog then. He took a picture of it. There was this rainbow-colored balloon like this, floating directly above our house. And so yeah, that, and sometimes you get to the point in your life where you want to cry or scream, but it's joy. It's joy trying to get out, It's joy trying to express itself. The joy of life and how wonderful it is. So sometimes when you feel that bubbling up, you have to go somewhere you can just let it out. So I hope that you find your joy. I hope you all let it out. And I will see you. Maybe I'll do a video from up on the mountain, or wherever I'm going next Sunday. Tune back in to see all the surprises and the wonders. So I wish you much light, love, and laughter. Zazoo Plazz signing out. See ya.